Okay, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the presentation, CIOs Thriving in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's going to be given by Philippe Johnston. He's the president of the CIO Association of Canada, as well as the Chief Information Officer for the National Research Council, NRC. I'll try not to use acronyms because I know a lot of you folks are not Canadian that are watching that. He's currently the CIO. Prior to joining the National Research Council in April 2021, he managed the information management and information technology operations for Transport Canada, starting in 2019. Yeah, he also held the CIO position at the Granting Council, Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, which goes into a long acronym, SSHRC, and the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, which is better known as NSERC, from 2017 to 2019. He was at the Treasury Board Secretariat, where he led all parts of the internal information management, information technology organization, including the deputy CIO position for the last 2 years there. Prior to joining Treasury Board, Philippe helped establish the cyber defense program at the Communication Security Establishment while creating partnerships with academia, vendors, and the key international organizations in the realm of cybersecurity. Philippe's an experienced information management, information technology executive who has been innovating and creating value for organizations for over 20 years. I've known him for a long time. It's an absolute pleasure. We're very fortunate to have him. So without further ado, over to you, Philippe.
Thank you, Bob. It always feels weird when people introduce you and tell you about what you've done. I'm really, really happy these days. I'm at the National Research Council. I started there about 6-7 weeks. What's kind of interesting is, as the CIO there and starting just recently in that position, I'm actually leveraging a lot of the material that I built with co-design with Andrew Morgan, who's at Transport Canada, and ICTC as well. This is material that took some research, about 6, 8, 9 months worth of research. We also looked internally at Transport Canada with a use case to try to describe some of the things that we were doing. And today we'll be looking at kind of the digital era, kind of positioning ourselves. Where are we today compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago? What shift are we seeing in the landscape? And then finally, like, what does that mean for the CIO? How does that evolve that role or that position or that mindset as the CIO? And then very importantly, like looking at kind of some key things that your organization or you could be doing and implementing within wherever you are in terms of digital literacy or even designing a strategy. We found that this material is probably relevant for people in the public sector, the private sector, and the not-for-profit sector. I think that the role of the CIO is changing in all of these industries kind of similarly. And it's just where you apply the actual technology solution or the mandate aligned with that organization that you need to think about. So I'm going to start next 30, 40 minutes kind of talking a bit about, some of the things that could be really helpful to you. And here's me, and here's the digital era, and understanding the fundamentals in our new world. Well, we've had the pandemic, so and I think everybody's talked about that quite a bit. But the pandemic did, for most folks, push themselves to digital service delivery, much more so than in the past. We've had a shift in terms of technologies being deployable and usable much more quicker than ever before. The speed to which you can go to market with your solutions, with the agile teams that you might have, and the configurable technologies and the SaaS offerings out there really have increased and made a shift in terms of how quickly one can actually leverage technology in their own business. So, that's changed for the last 15 to 20 years. And as well, it's kind of helped the CIO get a little bit more of I would say a footprint in the C-suite table, just because digital is so critical to service delivery for most organizations. So the story of exponential growth, I think we can give a different number of examples, such as, the smartphone, where, everything about our lives is now on the smartphone. We did that advancement in just a few years. We've got quantum coming that could exponentially increase our ability to crunch data, to leverage data for good, obviously for intelligence within our organization. We've got the cloud that enables us now to speed up the delivery or spinning up of servers and technology. So it's moving very, very quickly. And if you've gone to any conferences or seminars, the amount of data we're creating, the amount of capacity and bandwidth and opportunities and network, they're just creating a whole environment of mobility, of information at our fingertips, available anywhere, anytime. And that, I think, is a critical piece if you're running your organization, that you need to be able to take advantage of and move forward with, in terms of how do you deliver your services for your organization, and how do you create that value and that quick uptake in your services or your systems. And I guess, businesses that don't take advantage of some of these technology shifts and don't react to properly, or don't adapt or overcome or look for those opportunities, those are the people that will not be able to, I guess, keep up, and so go out of business, or not be able to create value for their shareholders, or even in the government perspective, not be able to deliver those quality services that citizens are expecting, the modern services that they would like to see, the ones that are mobile friendly, mobile ready, ask you only a few questions, and then the service can be started up and used and leveraged and adopted by Canadian citizens. So the shift has started that way. There's also been a shift in terms of the way we deliver services. I think it's becoming much more agile and much more quickly able to bring it into production. And it's not just within the CIO shop. And so I think that's another shift that's happening with the advent of power apps, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that. The democratization of IT shops, the ability to leverage software as a service and configure it to meet your needs. There is a shift towards that opportunity. So the shift of the CIO isn't about owning all of the IT development or the IT innovation. I think there's a shift now where the CIO needs to be far more integrated and collaborative with the business, and probably moving back towards what was happening in like 10 or 20 years ago. I would say 20 years ago, when IT first started really taking off. What you had was the business was hiring their developers, their computer analysts, their folks that would do the work for them, and creating their websites, etc. And then over the past 15, 20 years, they've moved back into a CIO shop, so we can have enterprise capabilities delivered far more holistically and economically, and also have the cybersecurity portion looked at. But these days, the shift is going back out to the business. And as a CIO in the fourth industrial revolution, with kind of the factors I listed earlier, I don't think the CIO can actually prevent that from happening. And I think the idea is that you need to figure out how to embrace it and work with the business to try to deliver more value. The other piece, at least from my perspective, I'm not too sure about your organizations, but we get way more requests to do things than we have the money or the resources to do it. And so that shift of citizen development, or moving IT outside of the CIO organization, it is something that enables like an exponential ability to deliver on services. So talk a little bit about how you might want to do that in this presentation. and as well how to make sure that it's done without creating utter chaos in your organization as well. Oops. So here are some of the drivers for change that could be hindering or helping, drivers for change within your organization. It comes a lot to do with culture within not just your CIO organization, but within your business, within your department or just anywhere within your business. So what does that mean? Are you a very horizontal organizational culture? Are you very bureaucratic, in terms of hindering the switch? Or are you allowing for modern, innovative thinking within your organization? Are you trying to look for champions across the organization that might be able to help you? So all of these things, in terms of this slide here, you're looking in terms of your organization to see if you've got the right environment for success, and for doing that shift to being a agile CIO, a CIO that's collaborative, client-focused, and also willing to give up some of that control in order to be able to do more with the limited resources you have. So I've only been at the NRC for the past 7 weeks. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example, kind of real time of kind of what I've been doing. I've been meeting with all the VPs of research, even the CFO, and all the other business lines that we have IRAP within the NRC. And I've been talking about some of these concepts with them in terms of, me coming in. Here are some of the things that I think could be really helpful for the organization, and exchanging ideas with them. And I'm at the very early stages right now. So now it's just about having a conversation and educating and them getting to know me and probably my approach or philosophy about how I would like to see IMIT being delivered in the organization. But so far, so good. I have to admit that I'm very happy to see that the NRC is not at all fearing the unknown. They want to be innovative. They want to look for leveraging emerging technologies to be successful. And as well, they're very collaborative and a very open and transparent culture. And they're very forward thinking. So, I've kind of done some analysis and done some sessions with all the VPs on this. So kind of the first step in terms of helping me understand where we are from a culture perspective to make some changes. So obviously I kind of spoke to this slide in terms of the CIO. Really it's a chief integration officer, if you really want it to be. It's the person who's going to be able to link the business value and the business direction of the organization, and link it to the efficient, modern, user-friendly service delivery of digital for the organization. And so it's pretty critical in any role, in any part of your organization, to have that mindset. And for me, that mindset has been extremely successful for me wherever I've been. I feel I've been able to really, really integrate myself with the value and the business, the value of the business and the business itself, and really be a partner and also an innovator with them in terms of driving that value. So, here are some interesting thoughts about, in your organization, what you might be wanting to look at. We've talked a little bit about that. I think I do want to talk a little bit about the type of talent that we're looking at, and it's definitely an issue for all organizations, and especially for CIOs. You want people who have really great technical skill sets, but these days it's also really critical to have somebody with the exceptional soft skills. Why is that? Is because you've got these small agile teams. If you're organized with agile dev SecOps in your organization, which I highly recommend for you to move to, you're dealing with the client, you're dealing with QA, you're dealing with security, you might even be dealing with communications people, change management people, and the whole team is working together in order to produce, a highly valuable product that is going to be delivered hopefully quicker and also meeting the needs of the organization and your clients. So finding those people is really critical. And in fact, obviously for any of you who have sons and daughters going into this field of IT and digital, there's just not enough people right now. And I would say that even though we are moving towards that direction, I'm sure I'm speaking for the most of us that, we're all fighting for really great resources there. But, you can develop your own, hopefully. And one of the things I guess I would say to really develop a digital mindset in your organization is really branch out to the universities like the University of Ottawa that, Bob teaches. I'm sure a number of students. Find some people that you can develop at a very young age to be part of your digital transition or transformation. Get them involved in the teams and train them and make them feel like part of your organization and how important they are to you. So I want to just focus on the fact that right now, I would say the biggest risk for me is not that the organization it doesn't want to go in a direction or the organization isn't ready for a culture or change at the NRC. My biggest issue will be to try to figure out how to bring in the right resources and the capacity to deliver on this. So I'll move to the next slide. So what are the characteristics of a successful CIO? You can see the words here that we kind of use. I think the ability to be client focused is like customer focused or client focused as a CIO, I think is a huge driver. I had a session yesterday with one of the VPs of research at the NRC, and we spent about an hour talking about, developing sort of like where do we see research? What are the pillars of transformation that we want for research? And one of the things that came out wasn't about the pillars of transformation or the actual material itself, but it was the fact that for the first time they'd seen the CIO shop genuinely interested in terms of what the business thought in terms of moving forward with their objectives, but also our ability to think about the customer first. So I think that really resonates with me, and I think that type of attitude has been pretty successful for me. But for the CIOs, I think in the future, it's really about that. Being curious, kind of thinking about the various opportunities, the challenges, asking questions, not thinking that you know everything. I think that's an important aspect of being a CIO. But the other aspect I think is when you are making plans and you are trying to deliver on a strategy or transformation, you got to be organized and you got to be visionary, and in a collaborative way, you got to be somewhat of a leader as well to try to present that vision and that strategy. And I think that's an important piece of this as well. All right, so we're moving on to digital literacy. So what does that mean for organizations? Some organizations are far more digitally literate than others. When I think about digital literacy, I'm thinking about the use of technology, understanding how technology can provide value. I'm not necessarily talking about being able to code, but definitely the linkage between a technology and a business opportunity. So being able to link those is probably an important, I guess, trait or success that you need to have across your organization. So once again, I'm focused on not just within the CIO organization, but this is something as the CIO you want to start educating and training and uplifting that culture and that digital literacy across your organization. The other big piece, I think, is about data literacy. So I'll include it in terms of digital literacy and data literacy. So these days, in order to make, fundamentally sound decisions, analytics, intelligence, Maybe even if you want to use AI or robotics or automation, you need a workforce that's data literate. So, one thing we did at Transport Canada, we created a data science kind of educational training program that was available to all of the organization, not just those people in IT. And so whatever that digital literacy you need for your organization to be successful, take the opportunity to try to figure out and uplift the skills outside of your organization. And I think that if you can do that, that's where you can get the exponential growth of technology. And so I'm going to give you a quick example of what we did at Transport Canada. So one of the things we did, and we'll talk a little bit more about this use case, we did start a Power Apps Center of Excellence. And Power Apps essentially, you can use any type of coding technology that you want, but essentially has really changed the way simple, easy things could be developed in a much more quicker fashion. So we a year or so before, Transport Canada took it upon themselves to talk about digital transformation, talk about digital skills and the upskilling, and providing the opportunities for all of its employees to become more literate. And so what we found is we also then would advertise, hey, we've got Power Apps, it's free for everybody to use. And what we found is groups across the organization who were curious and innovative, and who really took to heart the culture of being digitally literate and wanting to make changes in the way they deliver their services on their own, without even our knowledge. Well, with our knowledge, because they did come to us to ask us if they could start to work on some apps on their own outside of the IT group. And within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they developed some really, they weren't like an ERP system, obviously, but things that would improve the way they did their business and their business processes. And so all of that work to talk about digital literacy, talk about the culture of digital across the organization had started before I left to pay dividends within the organization. And as well, these are things that, as a CIO shop, if they would have provided us like with a concept paper or something, hey, could you help us out with this? I just wouldn't have had the resources to support them anyhow. So this is what's really great. And I'll talk a little bit more maybe on the governance of citizen development later, but that's a very specific thing. So according to Gartner, here are some stats. I won't go more into these than this. I'm going to just go to the next slide. So, these are typical business key challenges to increasing, digital literacy. And what I'd say to you is that these are all probably very good challenges, and they're articulated correctly. But at the end of the day, if you're positive and you can communicate effectively as a CIO, and you can create relationships outside of your organization, and even across the organization, they're really, really strong. All of these challenges, become noise. Like, they're not really challenges, but so I would say that what I did at Transport Canada for the past 2 years or so is I would have short coffee meetings with all of my colleagues and some of the VPs, and I would regularly keep those meetings up to maintain the relationship, on top of having implemented some formal ways of governance and formal ways to deal with expectations, and also to deal with their needs as well. So I would say these are really things you can consider. Obviously, you want to try to address and mitigate these. And I definitely talked about the shortage of skills right now, and I think that's a huge problem for all of us. So anyhow, but creating a digital first culture, an innovative culture within your organization, I think, is a great way to attracting the best and the brightest, even if you have shortage of skills. So So here's a step-by-step plan if you wanted to use something in terms of how to move forward with a digitally transformed organization as a CIO. So I'm currently at the NRC. I'm in like step 1, 2 at this point. I've only been there for 6-7 weeks, where I'm kind of evaluating how we deliver things. I'm communicating and collaborating and participating, looking for opportunities. And now I'm in the next 2 to 3 months. I'm going to be positioning my high level roadmap or strategy or vision to the entire organization, including the president. So I'm going to get the backing from the president on how he wants to distribute funding or resourcing to support this plan. But the first key piece is to get everybody behind the vision and the plan. A lot of those things, a lot of those other things will happen, that you're seeing, like these other steps, I think are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to really talk about those because I think you can read these in terms of how they could be useful to you. So in terms of how to leverage this research, that hopefully, you guys can see some of this research in terms of it sparks an interest, it provides some guidance. Hopefully so far it's been relatable to some of the issues that you're seeing. I'm going to keep going in terms of the next parts of the stack. So in terms of, if you're looking for a roadmap or a plan with some some key things to do in terms of trying to implement a really holistic digital strategy for your organization, here's kind of the steps. And so I hope to have done this in terms of these first 3 phases, in terms of next 3 to 4 months or 5 months, having completed these 3 phases, and hopefully that'll allow me to provide like a roadmap in terms of where we need to go, our priorities, which resources I need to bring on to be successful, how what does the people outside of the IT shop need to do as well. There'd be a roadmap not just for myself, but for people outside of the IT organization as well. The other piece is just making sure we have the right governance in place for investment decisions, for even operational decisions, the right governance in place for data. So at the NRC right now, they didn't really have a data governance committee, of which we had one at Transport Canada. So we're going to be putting that in place because data is so critical to the success of any organization. So we're going to have the terms of reference. We're going to be engaging a lot of the folks, not just within the IT shop again, but also across the organization in terms of what does it mean in terms of the types of people, the types of technologies, the types of data that they need in order to be successful to leverage data. So I'm going to continue with designing a strategy for success. I've kind of explained many of these things, like just as I was talking, but if you were looking for words or a nice way to look at this, so I'm doing a number of these things already at the NRC right now, and by the 4th or 5th, 6th month, hopefully I'll have the strategy approved by the president, and then going to step 5, then just operating, managing, and continuing to understand where we need to do investments in terms of our people or in terms of our technology and our processes. So I'm not going to go in much more detail here. Maybe I'll go into a few details here in terms of step 1. So I think that's critical for me. So the CIO at the NRC as part of the C-suite table, I think that's pretty critical these days with any organization. If you're not at the top level of the organization, whether that's in the private sector or anywhere else, it does really make it difficult for you to be on the pulse of the business issues of the day. and also being on top of, what's top of mind of the president or the organization. So in our particular case, I'm managing a committee, about IMIT that the president chairs. And at the same time, I'm part of the senior executive table that talks about a whole bunch of other issues, HR, finance, and research, and et cetera, investments for the NRC. And so, if you're really serious about trying to do a transformation, this step is critical in terms of doing this not just in isolation. I'm setting up numerous meetings across the organization with various VPs to make sure their input is integrated into the plan or into the final sort of strategy or vision that we want to move to. Maybe there's things we want to change. Maybe there's things we want to adopt or be leaders in. Getting that conversation going at the senior level is critical. So about 2 years ago, we did this at Transport Canada, and wow, did it ever yield so many great results. We had such great partners across the entire organization that really, really talked about digital. And I think you're talking to Raj Thupal, who is the Chief Digital Officer at Transport. I think he's presenting at 4. And I'm sure he's going to talk a lot more about what we did at Transport Canada there. Okay, whoops, I'm going up. So you can decide if you want to do a SWOT or whatever you want to call it, an analysis, but whatever is relevant to your organization here is what matters. And every organization is different. So, I definitely can't use what I did at Transport at the NRC because they're totally different business lines. And in fact, part of the value of rethinking this is actually to co-create something from scratch with the business partners. Everyone feels so much better if they have an opportunity not only to participate, but I mean, seeing something being developed from scratch and seeing something new and that you're proud of, I think that's the biggest factor, I think, in terms of this step. So again, talking about the transformation committee, the work about digital transformation. I'm going to kind of go through this. This slide is very busy, but hopefully you'll get a chance to see this slide in more detail, because it's a quite important slide in terms of trying to think through all of the stakeholders and all the areas that you need to focus on if you're going to really create that digitally transformed organization. And really, I don't know if I can. I want you to take a look at the employee piece. The employees of your organization across the organization are so critical to the success. I think I'm not going to be speaking out of turn, but Transport had a transformation journey or a map that they had developed, and in the piece that was missing in their map, I would say, or activities, is how to really truly engage the employees and make it real for them. How do you enable them to use the tools to be successful? How do you allow them to tell their stories? How do you give them the confidence and the education to be able to be comfortable with taking technology and innovation to the next level? At the heart of it is really the employees across your organization, and the more you can change that culture and increase their digital literacy and their innovation and motivation and enthusiasm, I think that's the biggest way you're going to have the success in your organization. So here's some things that you can think of in terms of like measuring yourself in terms of how well you're moving forward in terms of your culture, your mindset, your technology, or your organization, and the employees and the organization itself, and yourself as a CIO if you want to measure yourself, and maybe to carry out some key initiatives. So this is just a tool that could be useful to you in sort of organizing your thinking and your way forward. So these are some things that you might want to think about. And I think diversity, I'll start with diversity. Diversity is a huge play, I think, and really critical to your organizational success. So diversity to me, if you want to think about it, is obviously there's diversity with respect to, you know, age and, you know, young people, old people, diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of culture, diversity in terms of race and you know, work experiences, et cetera. But really what's important is really making sure as well you have a diversity in terms of thought. It's not all the same people thinking the same way, going in the same direction. And from my perspective, creating those diverse teams really creates high performing teams, agile teams, and teams that really generate the most important results. I'm going to move forward again and just go to a few recommendations. I think if you want to move forward and you're trying to move your organization's maturity with respect to digital transformation, you got to go in there with open eyes. You got to be there, going in there with listening mode and trying to figure out what could be the art of the possible, from your business clients to anybody in the organization. And so right now, if I look at my first 6-7 weeks at the NRC, it's really about listening and opening my eyes, asking obviously questions and providing some thoughts and sharing a little bit of my vision. But right now at this point in time, it's all about listening. I think in terms of if you're going to do a digital transformation, you have to balance out the initiatives across the organization, from the business focused initiatives to the enterprise initiatives to the cool things or the innovative initiatives. I think that's probably important. You can't just do only one thing for the organization, and I think that's where the role of the CIO, organizing that governance or that prioritization basis, or how you're going to manage the ability to grow the digital journey for an organization. It needs to be balanced, and you need to have mechanisms in order to make those decisions. I think it can't be said enough that strong communication that allows you as a CIO to be to clearly communicate things in a way that doesn't lose people or not too jargony or technically out there. I think that's really critical in terms of being able to set the stage right for your relationships so that they're positive and you're respected within the organization. Continuous growth mentality is just about never, I guess that's more of something for me that I think I've seen has been really successful. Don't accept the status quo. Don't accept just continuing to do the same thing because it's been, we've been doing this for the past 10 or 15 years. With technology and having a growth mindset, being able to look at opportunities and be enthusiastic about what those could be. I think it was last week I had a one-on-one with one of the VPs of research, and we started getting really, really excited and enthusiastic about the art of the possible of the future. And I think that goes to strong communications and having a growth mentality, being excited and enthusiastic about the opportunities and understanding what those opportunities could be together from a business perspective. And so, avoid the sunk cost fallacy. I think everyone understands that. I think just don't get yourself stuck in that area. And so these, I think, are typical kind of good change management, I'd say, practices. I've talked a lot verbally about in terms of some of the examples you can use as a CIO to move that forward. I'm not going to spend much time on that because if you are having resistance issues, you need to solve that, and you need to be able to take action. If you can't do it on your own, this is where you might need the president's help, and providing the president with the material to show the leadership, so that the message is not coming from you as a CIO, but it's coming from the president or the DM. and making sure, like, if you can get the president or the DM on board with your vision and your roadmap and your strategy, usually that can help with combating resistance. Generally speaking, it was interesting at Transport Canada. I mean, I think everybody was great, but it was really the middle management layer that was really struggling with the changes and struggling with, how to move forward. The new people, the new employees that were hired, or the millennials, they were like, really saw the opportunity to change the way we roll out digital strategies. So I think that'd be one thing in your organizations if you're moving forward with any transformation agendas. How do you get that middle management layer to really buy in, and what kind of key activities you can do to either bring them on board, make them feel comfortable, and educate them, and make them part of the solution. So that's an area I think for us at TC we noticed was an area we really had to work on. So we'll talk a little bit about Transport Canada. We did the Power App Center of Excellence. Some of you have maybe heard some of that. And so the idea is about citizen development. So that's a big piece, I think, for me as a CIO, is just understanding that it's not just going to be in the IT shop that development of new systems or services is going to happen. It's going to happen outside of the organization. We actually won a few awards on this citizen development process, and I've been communicating very specifically on that, like what we did. And it all comes down to making sure that even though you have development and activities and things happening outside your organization, it's just about structuring the governance and the and bringing things into production properly, because you still have cybersecurity to deal with. In the federal government, we have bilingualism to deal with, etc. So I'm going to not talk more about that because I need to give you time for some questions, and I'm just kind of I think this is my last slide. I think I've talked to you about all of these kind of recommendations. So right now, Bob, I'm going to I just realized it's 3:52, and I'll leave some time for some questions or thoughts.
Okay, well, that was a wonderful presentation, Philippe. Like you said, you've covered the ground extremely well. Now, I'm just going to be rather quickly asking you some questions. What was your greatest number one challenge in being able to thrive as a CIO based on your experience within the public service?
Okay. Just trying to think this through. I think it's convincing senior management at first. Like, I think convincing senior management, like outside of your group, that there's value in transforming. But that's so that was probably some of the biggest challenges. But even when I was at Treasury Board, I created a front office strategy. So although I wasn't the CIO there, I created a front office strategy at Treasury Board to really change the way we delivered services to other Government Canada departments. So the challenge is just getting people to come around the table to actually listen, to actually have the right discussions, and not being I call them a hostage. So a hostage to the conversation, but really being an active participant. And then the second challenge these days I think I'm dealing with is like, you got to be able to execute. I was very fortunate for the 2 years at Transport that we were able to hire really great people to execute. And I think at the NRC right now, I'm finding that that's going to be a big challenge, is trying to figure out, where do I get the best people to deliver? Luckily, I think we can be remote now, and we can have, developers in Vancouver, Edmonton, Nova Scotia, wherever. But I think for now, I want to predict the future. And I think that's going to be something that if we can't deliver because we don't have the people, then all of this talk is meaningless, right? Because it doesn't lead to any meaningful action or change within the organization.
You mentioned there's a skills shortage, and what skills, and how would you address that?
Yeah, so cybersecurity skills. There's developer skills that, cybersecurity, developer, data science skills. all of these skills are in such hot demand in all of our organizations. And you know, we're sort of creating it as CIOs because we're trying to, well, at least for me, I'm trying to democratize IT. So there's more and more people across a business that are actually leveraging those skills to enable the business. So what can we do about that? I think I talked about that. For me, it's going to be, you know, a number of things. Making sure we don't look at the NCR for our resources, so looking elsewhere. I think it's creating a good pipeline of young, really, you know, smart people that can learn new technologies, and we can educate and train them, and you know, really letting them know that we, that, you know, letting them know, but that's obvious, but really investing in their career and in their development, and paying really close attention to how we can make their lives within our organizations feel really, really meaningful. So those two things, just looking elsewhere outside of the NCR, and also, you know, growing your own talent, developing that talent. But that takes time. Like I said, if you want to grow and deliver that talent, we did that at TC. We had numerous students we brought in, and we'd promote and we'd provide career advances. But even then, you know, they might be off to another opportunity that may be paid better, or look better on paper.
Anyways, like I said, don't forget the universities. We're there. Just you know, it's for people that are asking this question. I have the fortune of dealing with some incredibly competent young folks, and they're very sharp. Do you have any personal examples of the sunk cost fallacy?
Not really, actually. I've been pretty good to not avoid that, to not be put into that situation. So let me tell you, I think another important thing that maybe I want to share. You need to be able to pick your horses, right? Pick your, you know, the things you really want to be good at, or that you want to be focused on. And if you're going to focus on certain things, or a few things, I don't like the fail fast. Like, people have been saying this fail fast thing, just so people don't feel bad because they failed early or failed fast. I believe in succeeding fast or succeeding early. So I think that if you think through your investments, or what you want to, you know, be starting to train your people in, or bring in some new technologies, you really do need to think about, you know, the overall investment. Like, how much is the ongoing cost? How much, you know, how are we going to maintain this? Is this something we can afford in the future? What kind of efficiencies or savings? How can we deliver this in the best way possible to get the maximum value? All of this thought process, I think you can do that very early on most processes or investments or decisions. And generally speaking, look, I think most of the things that we've chosen to do as a team with my organizations have come to be very successful in adding that value and that efficiency. So doing that proper analysis of all those areas that I kind of just mentioned, I think if you do those early on in the process, and I don't think a 30-page report is what you need. You need to just think about the right topics and the right issues, and document them, point form, or what have you. You don't need to spend a ton of time understanding those. So hopefully that's helpful for people moving forward.
Well, listen, thank you very much for a great presentation, Philippe. It's very much appreciated. As I said, the recording is going to be posted, as is the presentation. Anyways, that was very insightful, and I appreciate you
Thanks for
talking.
having me, Bob. I really appreciate it. And
Well,
I hope it was helpful for those who were listening.
It's a real pleasure, and don't forget that Philippe might be CIO of the National Research Council. He's also president of the CIO Association of Canada. So he's dealing with people from both private and public sectors across the land. Well, thank you very much, Philippe. I appreciate that.
And we're looking for great people to join us. If you're interested in joining the association, please give me a shout. It's a great association that gives you a broad network of really exceptional people across the country. Thanks.
Okay, for that. Okay, well, I'm just going to sit. I have to stay here for 30 seconds while the streaming stops. It's a technical thing. I'm sure you all understand. So I'll just stay here to make sure that our last discussion wasn't truncated.